Awesome. So I was thinking I can start by telling you a little bit more about our story, and then we can go to the questions. Does that sound good?
That sounds perfect.
Awesome. So let me tell you how this story started. Someone Somewhere was founded by myself and a couple of my best friends. We've known each other since we were 5 years old. We went to the same high school, primary school, college, soccer club, and we shared a lot of experiences. And when we were in high school, we started going on volunteering trips to different indigenous communities, first in Mexico and then in other countries. And in these trips, we started meeting a lot of families and learning more about their world and their life. And we were amazed by their warm hearts and how well they welcomed us, but also by levels of poverty and marginalization they were facing. And everywhere we went, we saw that most men were working in agriculture, and women were artisans that made something beautiful with their hands, but that the materials they were using weren't as good as the technique they had. The products where they were using their craft weren't matching what people is wearing nowadays, and else didn't reach the right people in the right way. So we decided to get into the numbers and understand if this problem was something that only happened in a few communities or if it was something national or even international. And we learned that the artisan industry is the second largest source of employment in all Latin America, Africa, and Asia after agriculture. There are 300 million artisans around the world, and 2 million live in extreme poverty. 90% of them are women, and if you consider the family members, this industry impacts more than 1 billion people. But we realized that it was not working correctly, and that most people that were artisans were really struggling to live from their craft. We also learned that it was very hard for them to sell their products because they live in very remote communities, and people that may be interested in this kind of products, it's hard for them to go there. So this was being also a big obstacle. And at the same time, we started seeing that something was missing. Ourselves and a lot of our friends were having a lifestyle that we call a nomad lifestyle, which involves traveling a lot, being very aware of the world's problems and trying to solve them. But 99% of apparel brands were focusing on the urban lifestyle or the outdoors lifestyle. So we saw a gap of products that had the right values, the right design, and the right functionality for this segment. And we saw that this market, the socially conscious, adventurous millennials, were spending $35 billion in apparel every year, which was way more than the global artisan market. And also we started seeing that the internet was becoming a viable way of building a brand and reaching the right people in the right way. So with this in mind, we created Someone Somewhere, which is a digitally native brand on a mission to lift millions of artisans out of poverty by creating the best products for a nomad lifestyle. And what we do is we combine traditional techniques from a lot of different artisan communities with modern and functional designs that people actually want to wear every day and not see only as a souvenir, digital sales channels, and a lot of technology to connect everything together, and a very innovative supply chain that uses cell phones to allows us to work with artisans from very remote communities and work with thousands of people at the same time. So inside what we do, there are three big elements that have been very important. One is innovation in the materials. We work with the communities to really understand their techniques and find ways of making them way more competitive so that what they do is amazing not only because of the design or the story, but because of the function. One example I love is the Magic Loom, which is a fabric that looks normal during daylight, like the picture in the right, but at night when a light hits it, it looks like the picture. Sorry, the first one was like the picture in the left, and during night it looks like the picture in the right. So it's an amazing fabric for commuters or people who are moving a lot on their bikes or walking and that want to feel safer during their commutes from home to work and vice versa. Another key part is data, which in this day is some of the most or one of the most important elements to build something that works. Every week we monitor more than 200 data points, and this allows us to understand how many people visit our website, to how many people buy something, what products they are buying, or in what part of the process they stop or they go out of the site. It helps us learn where we can open a physical store depending on the number of people that walks in the street, depending on how many online orders we had in that location. So it's very helpful to take the right decisions and instead of relying on our opinions or only our creativity, we can rely on what the data tells us, and data is always right, so it's way more possible to take the best decisions. And the last one is that all our supply chain is based on mobile phones, and we communicate with artisans from a lot of different places using this method, which is super helpful because we don't need to travel every day to each community to see how each new design or each new production is going. We can communicate by the cell phone and accelerate this process. We started, as I mentioned, my two friends and myself, but little by little we've been building a team of experts that are way better than us in each of the key areas of the brand. And some very cool facts are that right now, for every 15 visitors in our website, we are generating 1 hour of work for artisans. And since the pandemic started, we have created more than 50,000 hours of work for rural artisans. We started in Mexico. Right now, the brand is becoming well known here. There's a good chance that if you go to the street in Mexico City, particularly in like the young neighborhoods, you will see people wearing our products. And we have 5 stores that we built in different neighborhoods. And we also just launched in the US a month ago. And every month we get like more than 70,000 visitors in our website, and more than 2 million people see content that we made and that educates them on the artisan industry, on how buying from artisans can help fight poverty. And we try to inspire as many people as we can to have an impact with their purchases, but even more than that, try to find ways of having an impact through their work. So this is a super quick overview of what we do. And I understand there are a lot of questions that we can answer. So I don't know if, Pilar, do you want me to go through the list, or should we open the microphone for each one to ask their questions?
Yes, as you wish, like we can start answering the questions that I sent you, or first we can open the mic, as you wish.
Maybe we can open the mic so it's more collaborative.
Okay, awesome. So guys, does anyone have a question now about their market? Like, how did they?
Thanks to be here, Antonio. It's a very pleasure. I just see your profile in the salsa. And what is more happy to me is how do you connect the social entrepreneurship to the big companies? How to do this kind of dealing match?
It was a little bit cut. I understand the question was, how do you connect the social mission with the big companies?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. So I think one of the keys that I have seen a lot of social entrepreneurs get wrong is that social impact by itself is not something strong enough to make a big company or to make people buy from you. Your product needs to be amazing by itself. So for us, when we started, we thought that only having like beautiful design and our story would be enough to build something meaningful. But in the process, we learned that even like the products that were really working were the ones that the product was really cool. Like people was buying it not even because of the impact, but because of the product itself. And the impact made this more exponential, like more people talked about it, people were prouder to wear it and share it. But if the product itself is not something people would buy, even if it doesn't have an impact, it's hard to make something grow. So it's a very big challenge. But once you have it, you get a huge advantage because it's like having two different motors pushing you. You have the social impact side, which gets you a lot of exposure, a lot of help from amazing people. It helps you a lot with funding, and it helps you be super motivated because you know what you are doing is making a difference. But you have this other motor that it's an amazing product that people love to buy for the product itself. So I believe that's one of the key things that if you get right since the beginning, it can give you 2 years of advantage against people who focus only on the impact at the beginning. And this is for like physical products, but it works for any other thing, services or whatever.
Okay, thank you. That's very nice.
Awesome.
So clever.
Luis Benitez has a question. And then Regina.
Hi, Antonio. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Luis.
Well, I am from Mexico, and I'm working with my team on something quite similar with your project. I am looking for a fair deal between artisans and clients too. And well, I want to know something. What mistakes do you think we can avoid starting with this idea?
Great question. First, I think you need to understand that you're going to make mistakes. We've done thousands of mistakes, and it's part of the process. If you don't make mistakes, it's because you are not like pushing hard enough. So learning to live with mistakes is a very important part of entrepreneurship. But in particular for this model, what I just said is, I think, the key. Like, people will not buy a handcraft because it has an impact. If they buy it, it's because it's amazing and it offers something that nothing else offers. It can be amazing design or uniqueness or quality, but I think I've seen maybe 100 brands trying to work with artisans, and 99, their value proposition is that buying from an artisan has impact, but those never scale because maybe that gives you a few sales at the beginning from your closest relatives or friends. But I would put a lot of effort and time on the product and how to create something that you would buy even if the story wasn't there. So that's the first one. Like, don't assume. For I think there are two kinds of social enterprises. The ones that your client is the same as your beneficiary. So, for example, if you're selling solar energy to rural households, the person who buys it is the same that gets the impact. And the other model is you have one beneficiary and one client. In the artisan world, that's the case. Our beneficiaries are the artisans, and we do everything we can to make them earn more from their work. But our clients, in our case, are socially conscious millennials in big cities. So for those kinds of models, you need to make sure the product makes a lot of sense for your target. I don't know if it's older people, younger people, a particular lifestyle. So that's one. Another one super important is trying to focus or to understand which channels are the most relevant for those products. In our case, we started online because we saw it as a huge trend and something that was growing a lot. And we were super excited and we launched the online store. And even though there was a lot of people going to the store, at the beginning we had very few sales. And for a while we didn't know why, but then we got into the data and learned that when we started, now it's bigger, when we started, only 1% of all the apparel sales in Mexico were made online. So there was a lot of buzz around the online world. 99 of 100 products were sold in physical stores. So the moment we opened the first physical stores, we started growing way faster because we were selling where people was buying. Right now, it's maybe the other way around because with COVID, people is buying more online, so it may make more sense. But really understand where people is buying your product and tie your sales channels to those places.
We lost him.
Yeah, we lost him, right?
And yeah, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make a lot of research to find the channels that are the right ones for your product, and then test them to see if they work. But that way you can avoid a lot of time focusing on the wrong channels. And maybe the last one is to test everything, like idea, but then act and test in small experiments and really measure what happens. And that way you can learn way faster.
It's amazing. I love that one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Luis. Regina?
Sí, digo, yes, thanks. Hi, Antonio. I am super fan of what you do. And I wanted to ask you, like, for example, how did you, I don't know how to say it, like, made an approach with the artisans when they weren't like people that were like acostumbrados to use technology? O sea, sí, o sea, como, te voy a explicar rápido así en español. O sea, ¿cómo le hiciste para acercarte a los artesanos que no o sea, como que no están acostumbrados a usar tecnología y hacerles ver que era como pues, la mejor opción para que ellos pudieran mejorar su, pues, como su producción. Ya si quieres puedes contestar en inglés.
Perfecto. So the question was, how did we make the artisans that are not used to using technology, how did we convince them to use it? That's another super important thing and question. And I would say it is never design something from your chair or your office without involving the people that is going to use it. Like one of my favorite phrases is, want to help someone, shut up and listen. So at the beginning, our first approach was we were in our room, like doing different schemes of how we could work with the artisans and making research and getting a lot of ideas. And we tested dozens of systems with them, and all of them were a huge failure. Like even the first entrepreneurship award we won, we used it to build a workshop in one of the communities, like a physical workshop. We were so excited, and the first day, nobody showed up. Even though we were offering jobs, nobody wanted to go out of their place. We didn't understand that for them, something super important was to work from home because they had 3 or 4 and they couldn't leave them alone. So when we finally found the right way was literally we decided to go and live to the communities. We spent more like during all university, every summer we lived for 2 months in the communities and we made workshops with the artisans and told them, okay, we need to find a way of working with you so that it works for you, but also that it works for us, that we have the products on time, the right qualities. And in the end, what they proposed, and is the model we use today and that has allowed us to scale to a lot of communities, is the artisan group picked a local leader that was also an artisan, but that had maybe more skills for management, for numbers. And in each community, the artisan or the leader, instead of doing the embroidery or the technique, the leader is only in charge of coordinating everyone. So it's having like micro entrepreneurs in each community who are in charge of quality control, of all the payments. And we focused all of our efforts on these coordinators, make sure they understand everything about finance, inventory, etc. And they speak each local language. So it's way easier for them to translate everything to them and also to those guys. There's no way we'll have that on time because it's the local festivity in this week and everybody will be partying like crazy. So we need one for that. So I would say the key is to, if you are building a solution that involves other people, involve them in creating the solution. Don't go for your own work or try to impose something because 99% of the time that doesn't work. So another example, we built an app to control all the processes. And again, after a lot of months doing it, nobody used it. And it turned out that they had phones, but the only thing they knew how to use was WhatsApp. And WhatsApp had all the functions we needed. So we started using WhatsApp instead of our app, and things started working way better because it was something they were used to doing. We didn't have to teach them everything.
Okay, and
so the conclusion is,
well,
yeah.
Like for example, with the app, we also want to make an app. So do you think that it's like that it was like very important for you to first launch the app and then see that nobody used it, or like if you haven't launched it, you wouldn't have known that you can use WhatsApp to make like the same things?
That's a great question. I think the best approach is to build stuff as fast as you can and test while you build it. Like if you're building an app, instead of waiting 6 months to have it ready, do like a first prototype and test it. And that way you will learn way faster and will understand, okay, this feature, they really like it and they will use it. This other thing that we were planning to spend 3 months on building, nobody cares about it. So at the beginning, when you are first developing your idea, you have to optimize to learn as fast as you can. So with an app, my advice would be build it and at the same time test it. Even if it's not perfect, even if it looks ugly, go with them, show me how you would do this and see what they do without you telling them. And that way you will learn if it's intuitive enough or you have to teach them something. So it's like a balance between both. Our mistake was that we spent a year building it before even trying it with them, you know?
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Regina. Josefina?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. I love what you are doing. It's really nice. I love it. So I think that artisans are a sector vulnerable that we must support. And yeah, I love what you are doing. So my question is, which was the biggest challenge that you have when you have to choose your market segment or target, and artisans are also your customers? Can you say that they are also your customers or not?
Great question. I think, as I mentioned, there are some models where you have two different customers. Maybe the one customer is the one that pays for the product, and one customer is the one that gets the impact. So we see, the way we talk about them is that our customers are the people who buy the products, and our beneficiaries are the artisans. But for the first question, which was what's the biggest challenge, I would say the thing is being ready to have a lot of mistakes. It's being ready to have a lot of obstacles. From all the entrepreneurs I know that built really big companies, I think the only things all of them have in common is one, they are super perseverant. They don't let an obstacle to stop them and always find ways of solving issues. Like we have had any number of problems that like you can imagine. We have almost run out of money like 2 or 3 times. We have launched products that don't sell at all. We have launched products that sell out in 1 day and then we don't know what to do. So if you have this mindset of perseverance, it's only a matter of time before you find the way of solving. And there is learning very fast, like reading a lot and become a learning machine so that you are always on top of the new challenges and are ready to solve them. In terms of how did we define the customers, the artisan part, I think something important is to meet the people that you want to have an impact on and meet them very well, like really spend time with them. If you can live with them for a while, that's amazing, because if you only have like 1 hour or 2, they may only tell you like the typical things, but if you live with them, you start seeing a lot of things that are not that obvious and you can find very smart ways of solving them. And also, we also spent a lot of time understanding how big the problem was. Like, is there 1 artisan, 10 artisans, 1,000, 1,000,000, 10 million? So this combination of like being very close with some people that are part of your target, like beneficiaries, and understanding how many stories like that exist will help you create a better solution. And then for our customers, we actually started focusing on a very different segment. The first product we did was shirts. We did like dress shirts that have some embroidery like in the neck and in some other places. And the target was like men between 40 and 60. We started there because we thought that group would have money and that would be interested. But after a while, we learned that two things. One was that we didn't like that, as we weren't part of it, it was very hard for us to understand how to sell to this target. And we were passionate about it. Like we didn't feel it was the right way. So after starting with that product, we made the t-shirts like this one that are way more focused on people like ourselves and people we really understand. And the first week after changing product, we sold more than all the months before selling the first product. So we iterated or pivoted the product and the market segment. And I think something that is super helpful is when you are part of the segment or you have someone close that is part of it, understanding. Because if not, it becomes harder to create the best solutions. So to sum it up, I would say it's a mix of talking with people that are part of the segment, but talking for a long time, not only like a 10-minute conversation, but really understanding lifestyle. And then the other side is seeing the numbers and understanding how big is the problem, where are most people that have that problem based, and with that information, you can start designing solutions.
Thanks.
Awesome. Luis?
Yes, thank you. Well, I have another doubt. I want to know what opportunities did you see but didn't develop?
Really good question. I think one was in the target segments. We focus on millennials and like a very particular type of people, but there are a lot of different groups of people that could be interested in something like our products if it was designed for them. Right now, a lot of our products are for men, but we know there's a lot of women that really love the brand and we are building products for them. Another interesting approach is decoration, like all the things you use to make your home nicer. Artisan world, I would say a big part of artisans are in the textile type of products, but another huge portion or painting or kinds of products, and there's an interesting opportunity there. So yeah, also in the tourist part, like artisan products are very attractive for tourism. So a brand that has like really nice products and stores in the places where tourists are traveling may work a lot, but that's only in the artisan world. I think once you start something, I have maybe 20 ideas of social enterprises that could be built, and that it's a matter of time to like until someone does them, or even myself in the future, I would love to do a lot more things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Evelyn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, how do you and your team deal with changes of plan when something is not working that well and you have to change something? How do you deal with that?
Great question. The first thing is to build your data systems. Like if you don't measure something, there's no way you can know if it's working or not. So before starting anything, even before designing the product or the channel, we define how we will measure if it's working or not. Once we have that system in place, we start with small tests. Like we try to understand, for example, I don't know, let's try ads in YouTube. Like, let's see if having ads in YouTube can bring customers to our website and make them or convert them into customers. So we understand, okay, to make sure we're doing it the right way, we need to spend $500 and we need to make a nice video. So we do that as fast as we can. We launch it, and we always start with a parameter of what does it mean if it works or not. Like maybe we say, if we are able to bring a visitor to the website for $1, or it's $1, maybe it's a good channel, but maybe the content was good. Let's try another one. If it's $2 or $3, it's a clear sign that it doesn't work. And I would say the key is to test it as fast as you can, learn and measure what happens, and then being very objective on defining if it works or not. We kill maybe 9 out of every 10 ideas we have after testing them. The key is to understand what's success and what's not success, and also those gray places where you're not sure how to to make sure you try the best approach possible. And also when you see something is not working, not being stubborn and like just letting it go and try something else. But if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have a lot of ideas. And as long as you keep testing and making sure you understand what means if something works or not, you'll eventually find a way.
Thank you.
Cool. Gustavo? Gustavo Lima.
Hi, Mr. Nuño. First of all, congratulations for what you did there. And my question is, how do you track the production of small communities and how it's for them having to adapt the production from a small size to a bigger number?
Great question. So, first of all, we design the products with the communities, and we really understand how each technique works, and we know how much it takes. That's super important. Like before starting to work in a new community, we measure each artisan how much time they need to create maybe a square of fabric, for example. And when we average the time of all of them, we can understand, okay, maybe one pocket in this community takes them 3 hours to make. So that way we can understand our capacity. Like we know exactly in each community how many products we can make. Then knowing this, maybe we know, okay, in this community, we can make up to 5,000 pockets every month because there are 80 artisans and each of them can make this amount of pockets per day. And then we reduce that a little bit because a lot of times some of them can't work full time, some of them have festivities or other activities they need to do. And then we tell them, okay, I don't know, Oaxaca, we need this amount of product. Each artisan says how many they want to make, and we agree on a date. And then on that date, all the artisans go to the place where the coordinator leaves and she receives all the products, she checks the quality, and she pays them when they deliver, and then they send us the products to the places where they are assembled. In terms of how did we manage to change the way they work from very small to larger orders, in the end, for them, it's not that different. They maybe do the same amount of work as before. The difference is we can pay them way better because the products or their craft is using products that have more value and that we are sure we can sell. And the way we have scale is that we work with a lot of artisans that usually are not organized to work together, but we don't need to teach them how to do their craft. We need to teach them how to organize so that at the same time, 100 artisans deliver the amount of products they said they would deliver. And as it's such a big number of people that are artisans, like only in Mexico, there are 10 million artisans. So it's easy to work with a lot of people, and each of them works to their own capacity. So what's really helpful in the end is that we don't change the techniques they do, we don't change the place where they do them, we don't change the tools they use. We maybe just change, like, instead of doing a huge dress that is going to be very hard to sell because of the price or the colors or the design, we do smaller pieces of fabric or bigger pieces and put them in the right products.
Awesome. Naomi?
Hello, Antonio. I have a question. So how did you identify your competitors? Because right now it feels like after 2013 with the Hana Plaza disaster and also like even more now after COVID, I guess there's this kind of like a trend of being socially responsible and also more sustainable. And there's like this approach of maybe people supporting like small companies, you know. So I was wondering if you see like major fast fashion companies as your competitors, and like how would you deal with it in the future?
Great question, Naomi. Thank you. So I think the way we see it is that fast fashion, maybe they are not competitors, but they are substitutes. Like in the end, if you want a t-shirt, you can go to H&M and it's gonna be super cheap and it's gonna be nice. So I think you need to differentiate in other ways and not only in the impact side, because most people will still go to H&M, even if they know they are exploiting people. In the end, if it's cheaper and if it's good, it's gonna win. So we don't try to compete against fast fashion in terms of trends and how fast we can copy what people is wearing. So we are focusing more in a particular lifestyle, which in our case is this nomad lifestyle. And we really understand this segment, like, and we are part of it, so it's easier. And we create products that, for example, instead of a t-shirt or a plain t-shirt, we're developing a t-shirt that you can pack in itself, that it's waterproof, that it's odor-proof, so you can wear it a lot of times before washing it, that it's stain-proof, so that if you have an accident, you can still wear it without worrying, that it's way more durable than a normal cotton t-shirt. So for a particular niche of this nomad lifestyle, this t-shirt is the best thing they can find because it works perfectly with their lifestyle. And then in their mind, it's like, okay, maybe I can spend $25 in an H&M t-shirt that will last for a year and that it's not going to be super helpful with my lifestyle. Or I can go with someone somewhere and buy a t-shirt that works really well for me and for my lifestyle and that has an impact and makes my life easier and makes the life of another. For example, Patagonia is one good example. There's another one called Everlane, but it's not that much the fast fashion, but it's brands focusing on this lifestyle. And I believe that for artisan brands, competing based on fashion is super hard because it takes longer to create products with artisans than to have a workshop where in one day you create a new design that copies the latest trend. That's why you need to find other ways of competing.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Okay, I have a question, if you can help us. This week's topic is market segmentation. And we're trying to learn about it, about niches in customer persona technique as a way to find market that we can sell something or can solve a problem or so else. Your segment is social consumptions millennials in big cities. That is your targeted market, targeted segment. How did you decide or find out that this was the right segment for you? Can you share with us something about it?
Sure.
Okay.
So in our case, it was a little bit weird because we first launched the brand without knowing at all who was going to be our target. And then after getting the first sales, we saw the data and saw where they were coming from, what were their ages. We even interviewed the first customers to understand more about them. And 80% of our first customers were part of this segment. So that's when we understood, okay, we should focus here. But that's not the only or the best approach, I think. What I would do if we did this again would be to talk, like first have an idea of who would be the customer and fall in love with the problem and not with the solution. Like a lot of times we think our solution is amazing and we try to find a problem for the solution, but it's way easier if you find first a problem and who's having the problem and then design the best way of solving it. And the best way to find this out is talking with people, like literally taking the phone or inviting them for a coffee. And here the best advice I've gotten here is that focus on the people's problems, not on the solutions they tell you. A lot of times people don't know what they need or the solution that would solve their problem the best. Like a good phrase is from Ford that he said that if I had asked people what solution they were looking for, they would have told me they wanted a faster horse, because in their mind there was not conception of what a car could be. So if you focus on, okay, the problem is that they want to move and transport faster. How can we solve it? Then you may come up with the idea for the car, not on how to make horses faster. So at these initial stages, I would say it's a lot of talking with people, having dozens of or hundreds of interviews with people that you think are your target, and making sure a lot of them share the same problem. And a lot of time in these interviews, people try to tell you solutions, like, it would be amazing if I could have this, but you need to always come back to, but what's the problem? What are you suffering? And then from your own understanding, you can create a solution for this segment, or understand that maybe what you are building is not gonna solve a problem for the segment you are talking about.
So looks so awesome is that you segment on the fly. First you launch, and and look for what's happening, and then okay, this is the people we're looking for, or the people that is buying us. So you launch first, and then you do a segmentation. That's very nice.
But as
Then
you
you're
said,
Yeah, that was.
yeah, go.
Sorry.
you're hearing you.
Yeah, so that's what we did, but I wouldn't recommend it because there are ways to learn this even before launching. And that the way is to talk with who you think is going to be your customer and making sure they something they are really suffering. It's going to be hard to convince them to buy from you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was actually my question. Like, would you recommend it? But I don't think you are recommending it. So, do you have any other insight, for example, in terms of market segmentation? Because I'm looking at the questions I sent you, and most of them you have already answered with the ones that the teams have made you. The only one that I think it's missing, it would be like, which tool, methodology, or best practices would you recommend early, to these early stage entrepreneurs to focus on for or use for an effective market discovery?
Sure. I think the first one, and it's crazy, but most entrepreneurs don't do this. Like they prefer to spend time building stuff and creating, but the more time you spend at the beginning talking with customers and understanding their needs, their problems, the better solution you're gonna build. So it's talking with them, focusing on the problem and not the solutions they tell you should build, but on the problem itself, and making sure it's something like try ask them to rate the problem, like how much time is this taking you, or how much money are you spending to solve this right now, and why, and understand if it's something like a big pain, or if it's something like it's not that nice but I don't care a lot about it. If it's a big pain and there's no clear solution, there's a huge opportunity there. So it's not a tool, it's more talking with customers, focusing on the problem, and ask them to rate the problem or put values, put time, put money, put like suffering they have for the problem, so that you can measure how big it is. And another very, 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 very important advice is understand the size of the problem and the market. If not, you could spend a lot of time building something amazing for a problem that maybe only 10 people have. And that happens a lot. And maybe at the beginning you don't realize it, but then when you start growing, then you realize that the market is not big enough, and no matter how hard you work, what you're doing won't work because there's not enough people that need it. In our case, that's another example. We started thinking that there were a lot of socially conscious millennials from maybe a high or medium high socioeconomic level that were looking for our kind of products. And at the beginning, it seemed that they were a lot, but then when we started growing, we realized that no matter how hard we worked, there was a limited number of people in this segment in Mexico. What we had to do was to grow to the US, which is way, way, way bigger. But try to really, before focusing a lot of time on something, understand how big the problem is and how many people have this problem. If it's a huge pain and a lot of people have this pain, it will give you a huge advantage once you start growing. And be very careful of the problems that maybe only 10 people have them and that are not painful at all, or that are very small problems.
course, totally. Thank you. Naomi?
Yes, I have another question. It's more personal and career related, but I was wondering, I don't know if you already answered this question, but I missed the beginning of the session. But I think a lot of us work right now. And for example, me and my partner, we both work in consulting. And we were like thinking like at some point we are gonna have like this conflict between like our career and also like dealing with all the things like at the startup. So like, did you face something similar and how did you manage?
That's an amazing question. When I was starting to create someone somewhere with my friends, I was studying college and I was working in McKinsey. It's like a consulting firm that it's super demanding in time. Like it's one of the hardest places to work because the level of demands they had is huge, and it was a very interesting, hard dilemma because this place was like a lot of time, but also it was very prestigious and it was very safe. Like I knew that if I worked there, maybe 2 years later I would go for my MBA, and then 2 years later I would go back to work there, and I would be earning a lot of money. And my other option was doing clothing with artisans. So even with my parents, imagine my mom who was like super proud of his son that was in consulting and had like a very good future, telling her that he was thinking on quitting to start a clothing brand with artisans. Uh, and for a while, for a few months, it was a huge like dilemma. Like I remember crying of not knowing what to do because my heart was on one place, but then I was also worried about the future, about money, about my career. But little by little, there came a point where I couldn't live knowing that this problem was existing and that I had a way of solving it. And instead of that, I was using my time and my brain to solve problems of huge companies and making rich people even more rich. But it was a huge struggle. Now on, after a few years later, and after taking that decision of quitting and starting this from scratch and like risking it, I can tell that it's been an amazing journey. It's been I was complaining that consulting was hard. Entrepreneurship is way harder because in consulting, in the end, you show a presentation of what you think they should do. And if they do it or not, it's their problem. If it works or not, you a lot of times don't even know. And in entrepreneurship, if you don't do stuff, it won't happen. And you won't be able to pay the bills at the end of the month. So it's harder, way harder, but it's way more interesting, fulfilling. You learn way more. Like you force yourself to learn faster because if not, things are gonna crash. It's like building a plane at the same time you are flying it. But interestingly, right now, I'm way less worried about my career than I think what I would be if I stayed in consulting and even if I did an MBA, because now I'm very confident about my skills. I know I can build something from scratch. I know I can attract investors to my ideas. I know I can build a team around anything I think about. And the connections you can create in the entrepreneurship world, I would say, are way more powerful than corporate jobs because the president of Levi's, presidents of banks in our board, and it's people that at my age never in the world I could spend time with them if I was in a corporate place. So my network is way stronger. I know that if anything happens, I would have a lot of options. So I understand the struggle. It's super hard because I imagine all of you, well, not imagine, I know all of you are super smart and have a lot of options and could get a lot of offers from different places to work. But at the same time, you have these ideas and this drive to build something that matters and that was like the a little bit of change in the world. So my advice would be you can keep advancing on your solution or on your startup while you are working. You can take a lot of risk out because you can spend a lot of time still receiving your payment and while you are building, and then it will come a time where you feel it, where you are like, okay, now this has enough potential and I trust that we found something interesting that I'll go for it. And in the end, I think what can happen is you will spend a few months earning less than if you were in a corporate job, for example. And you will have more worries of different things. But I love the idea that when you are old, you regret more the things you didn't do than the ones you did. And I think no matter what happens, you would be very proud about taking this path. And you will learn a lot in the process. I think sometimes or some people really nail it and build something huge. Sometimes it's something that has a lot of potential and grows little by little. Sometimes you just fail miserably. But what you learn in the process will give you another idea for another company or the best contact to go to a corporate job. So I remember very well that point that you are mentioning. Maybe a few years later, I can tell you this.
There's a huge challenge for you guys. Regina?
Yes, it's super fast. I just have like another question. Like at the beginning, how did you knew like that you were taking the best path? Because sometimes in our entrepreneurship, we have like that doubt, like if we are going in the right direction, and also like what was the moment like when you knew that like the boom, like the most important moment when you said like, okay, we are like achieving what we want. I don't know if I explained well.
Sure. For the first question, with what's when do you know you are in the right path? You never know, to be honest. Like you always have some other options that may be better, and the only way of finding out is trying. And after a while, you start building a sense of what works or what doesn't, and also numbers are the best for that. Like once you put numbers into everything, you can compare one approach against the other. But I would say you never know when it's working or not, or not when it's working, but you never know if there's a better path. The key is to keep testing, and once you feel something has potential, get deeper and focus a lot of your time. Focus is super important because when you start something, there's 100 things you can be doing, and also the best entrepreneurs I've met are really good at prioritizing and saying, we need to do three things, these only three things. All of these other ones, even though they could be helpful, they are not the most important, so I'll postpone them. My mind is gonna be on these three things. And the second question of when did you know about the boom? A lot of companies never get that boom. It's hard. When you nail it and find something, it pushes, like it pulls you. Like I can't say with full confidence because I feel we are not there yet either. We are getting close, but we still have to work a lot on a lot of things. But from the startups that really exploded that I know, what they tell you is that you spend years pushing things, like pushing, trying to find how to make them work. And when you find the famous product market fit, it pulls you. Like your mind changes from what can I do to how can I survive all of these orders I'm getting, or this demand, or these requests I'm getting from everywhere. So I think because we've had some sparkles of that, some products that we can't produce fast enough, but it's just the beginning of that. But I think you should know it takes a lot of time, and a lot of times you don't see that. It's more a matter of working and pushing, and little by little, it happens.
Okay, thanks.
Amazing. Luis.
Thank you. I think that it is going to be the last questions, but I want to know a little bit more about how did you handle finances at the beginning of your project, and how long did it take to see results?
Great question. So our first products, we started with zero. We were students, we didn't have money. The first batch of products, what we did was we talked with all of our friends and our friends' parents and told them, like, we have this idea of this brand, give us money and we'll make you a cool product. They didn't even know what we were gonna do, but everyone liked the idea and trusted us. So I think we started with 15 shirts that we made with the money that our friends and their parents gave us. And maybe, I don't know, we charged $50 and the shirts costed 25. So we made 15, and then with those 15, we made another 30 and sold those 30, and with that we made 60. So for a while, it was only reinvesting everything from the sales. And we were very lucky that we didn't have to pay for our livelihood. Like we were living with our parents, they paid for food, so we could focus only on selling and reinvest. At the beginning, that was the approach. Then we started applying to a lot of awards. Now there are a lot of entrepreneurship awards out there, which are great to give exposure to your project. And a lot of them have money awards that are helpful to start. Then I think there are two approaches. One approach is the bootstrap approach, which is you sell stuff, and with that money, little by little, you make more stuff and grow. The other path is the venture capital or impact investing approach, which is you raise a round of money. With that money, you build something and test what you are doing. And then you raise another round every 1 or 2 years, and you grow with that. It depends a lot on the business. A lot of businesses, you can grow them with their own sales, and that's, I think, the best, because it proves there's a market, that people like the product, and it allows you to be always in charge. The other approach, for example, our approach, we have investors. And every 1 or 2 years, we have to raise a round of funding. And with that money, we try to grow as much as possible and raise the next one. At the beginning, I think it's being super nimble and spend as little as you can and try to get the money from the sales, not from anywhere else. It takes time and it's like a struggle, but it's totally worth it because it pushes you to build something people actually want. And then another part, it depends a lot on each person, but for example, I'm terrible with administration. Like I'm very good at the creative part and marketing and selling and speaking about what we do, but I'm the worst organizing money, organizing like structuring things. I know where we need to go, but I'm not good at structuring the way to get there. And that's when a partner or a co-founder is key. So you need to be very realistic about your talents and what you like to do. And if possible, find a co-founder that is really good at the other key part of your business. For that, we are very lucky because one of my co-founders is amazing at administration, operations, finance, and we complement each other very well. So I think it's a great time to think about that. Like, if you are terrible with numbers or terrible with organization, you should maybe find someone who is very good at it and complements you.
Okay, thank you very much again.
Thank you. I think those were all the questions. I think it was really interesting and very inspiring, you know, like hearing about your journey, Antonio. I don't know if you have any other, like one last tip for them. I mean, I have heard, I don't know if you've heard this, I'm sure you have, that in the social entrepreneurship ecosystem, they say that this is how normal business should be done, like in the future, right? Do you have any insight? I really do believe that. But what do you think? Is it possible that all the business migrate to this kind of scheme? And or how do you see yourself as an entrepreneur and the whole ecosystem and the whole economy in the future?
Sure. So first of all, congratulations to all of you. I think just being here and being interested in this, it's an amazing step. And we need more people like you in the world. Myself, I know I couldn't be working on something that didn't have an impact because the world has a lot of problems that need to be solved. And also, I feel very lucky of getting a good education, getting like a lot of potential, and I feel my responsibility is to use that to improve other people's opportunities. So I think it's a really cool way of starting or building a company. It's hard, like any company is hard, but social entrepreneurship sometimes it's harder because you have two problems to solve. You need to make money while making an impact. But even though it's the hardest job maybe in the world, it's the most rewarding by far, because once you start growing little by little and seeing results, that feeling of like everything you do not only helps you but helps someone else is amazing. And it helps you be very balanced in all the aspects of life. So yeah, I'm not sure if all businesses will be like this, but I think I see it the other way around. There are a lot of problems, and most of them could be solved with social enterprises that are built by smart people who learn fast and take risks. And I think all of you have that potential based on the quality of the questions you made. And just know it's a journey, and it takes time and it takes a lot of effort. And also that it's important to build a network that is doing the same things, having the same mindset. And I believe it's an amazing opportunity for you to be in a group with other young people that are doing similar things and from all around the world. Like, I was amazed when I learned that there was going to be people from so many countries. I would have loved that opportunity when I was starting, because I remember we were the crazy ones in our classroom, like the only ones doing something like in the social world. And now it feels like the crazy ones are the ones that don't do it.
Exactly. I've got goosebumps.